bolster can be. So how you kind of measure it is if you imagine that this was my wall, I'm just going to use the chair as my wall. If I sat with my feet on the wall, I want to kind of have my pelvis a little bit lower than where my knees are. So I bring my pelvis kind of here, so that when I put my feet on the wall, my knees are right over my hips, and my feet are at the wall. And then I'm going to take my bolster and put it on my shins with my feet at the wall. So pushing those feet into the wall like so. Knees and feet are hips distance apart. We're going to do some knee stability and some ankle stuff to get started. Now, if you need a blanket for your head or your pelvis, let me know. You want to be comfy. And then we're just going to start by pressing those feet into the wall, and we're going to imprint and arch our low backs. We're going to make sure that we're nice and straight so that our pubic bone, our nose, and our navel are in alignment, and they're in line with the center of our feet. As we imprint our low back, we take our low back and we push it into the floor, and then we find a little bit of an arch, kind of taking the pubic bone away from the navel. So imprint the low back, arch the low back. And then see if you can find a neutral pelvis where you're not pushing your low back into the floor, but you've got a little bit of a back bend there. It's a natural lumbar curve. You can also feel that there's a crease in your hip flexors. So I want you to push your feet into the wall, from the big toe mound to the baby toe mound, that whole outer foot that kind of shapes almost like a question mark, and then the entire heel. Now that part of your foot is not going to lift away from the wall, but you're going to lift your toes away from the wall. As you inhale, you're going to exhale to take your toes to the wall. So inhale, take your toes off the wall. Exhale, take your toes to the wall. And the whole time, we're doing our best to keep that natural lumbar curve. Toes lift, toes lower. Hi there. Tuck this underneath your head. And then lift those toes, keep those toes lifted as you press the feet into the wall. Take your fingers, grab your shoulders, squeeze your shoulders, and start with some nice big slow circles with the elbows. And see if you can use all 10 fingers to squeeze those shoulders. If it's too much to squeeze the shoulders, take your hands off the shoulders, but imagine you're squeezing little tennis balls. Again, the toes are lifted, and we're keeping the toes lifted if that's at all possible. And let's change direction with those circles. So ideally, fingertips are not moving. Alrighty, so let's see if we can get these knees a hips distance apart. Nice. You've been traveling a lot, hey? Where have you been? Was it super fun? Super busy, lots of people. Is it good to be home? Did your daughter go with you?
Yeah, she's in Shanghai.
She's at Shanghai University now? No way. That's exciting. Wow, you're going to miss her though, hey?
Sure.
Yeah. I've got a student that moved here from Shanghai during COVID, and she's super cool. She lived in Shanghai her whole life. She loves it there. Yeah. She's happy to be here, honestly. And then elbows at a shoulder's height. Exhale to bring your elbows to touch. Inhale, elbows to open. And then elbows to the floor. Exhale to bring the elbows to the side ribs. Inhale to bring the elbows up like a jumping jack. Chandra, find your mat. Let's double it up if you need to better. And then just releasing those arms beside you, palms facing up. Let the toes come to the wall. Push all 10 toes into the wall. Take a few breaths there. And again, imprinting your low back, arching your low back, just loosening that up a little bit. And then finding that neutral pelvis so the pubic bone, hip bones are level. Push your toes and your toe mounds into the wall. Inhale to take just your heels away from the wall. Exhale to take your heels back to the wall. So toes and toe mounds touching wall. Take the heels away from the wall. Exhale, take the heels to the wall. If it feels like too much, just ditch the bolster anytime you like. Feel all 10 toes pressing into the wall if that's possible. Feel the big toe mound to the baby toe mound rooting into the wall. And then take those heels as far away from the wall as is comfortable. Hold there. Interlace your fingers, right hand on top of left. Pick up your head, place your hands on your head, and then we're going to exhale to open the elbows and close the elbows. Lifting your chin a little bit so that you've got a nice neutral neck. I'm going to go one down on this because we've added my hands. I'm just going to pull this out. We'll go one more. Come up just a little bit. There you go. Perfect. Elbows touching, elbows opening. Heels still lifted as long as that's comfortable. And then elbows right over the shoulders and start to make circles with your elbows. And so from now until September, my goal is to do the first 30 minutes of each class to be, it could be prop free, right? So here all you would really need is a wall. You don't really need the bolster. And then if you guys want like a 30-minute practice, you can just go to the video library and you can bang out 30 minutes in any hotel room, any house, whatever you need. Change direction with the circles. If you don't have a wall at your house, you can always use a door. And stopping with those circles, open the elbows as wide as is comfortable, push the elbows into the floor. If that feels like too much at any point, you can bring your elbows back together and then release those arms beside you, palms up, halfway to a T. Just breathing here. Relaxing the ankles if you need to, but joining back in with that ankle strengthening when it feels appropriate. Let's pull in our bellies as if there was a bowling ball on our bellies and we're trying to get our navel away from that bowling ball. And let's breathe into our shoulders, particularly that space between the shoulder blades that we just kind of stirred up with our arm bones. Let's go 10 more breaths here, right into the back of the heart center. See if you can get rid of the wrinkles in your wrists, if that's at all possible. when those 10 breaths are complete, bring those elbows as close as you can and just hold there. Maybe tuck your chin towards your chest just a little bit as you continue to breathe into the shoulders. There might be a little bit of pressure on the skull, and that's okay. We almost got like fault line type cartilages in our skull, and we want that skull to be quite flexible so it's not rock solid. And then lifting your chin a little bit, take your elbows just over the shoulders, lift your head, release your arms beside you, palms facing up. Take your feet back to the wall, entire sole of the foot rooting into the wall. Big belly breaths. And then going back to imprinting and arching your low back a little bit, rocking it out. Again, if it feels like a lot for you to keep that lumbar curve, that neutral pelvis, you don't have to. We want to strengthen the low back and the pelvis over time, so do what feels comfortable. If you can hold the neutral pelvis, do. We're going to slide those heels up the wall slightly so that we can keep the heels at the wall and lift the soles of the feet. So heels touch the wall, soles of the feet comes away from the wall. Soles of the feet go back and push into the wall. Soles away, soles to the wall, but the whole time those heels stay on the wall. So keep your feet at the wall, heels stay, soles lift. So a lot of us are lifting the heels. So the heels stay, and we just lift the sole of the foot, bring the sole of the foot back to the wall. We notice if the knees come together, if the knees go apart, we try and keep the knees that hips distance. Bring these feet into a hips distance, good. Again, you strengthen the ankles as long as you can. If you need a break, you return the feet back to the wall. So lift your heels lift your soles to keep your soles off the wall. Right? Again, you can ditch the bolster anytime you like. Let's interlace our fingers, left hand on top of right, lift up the skull, bring the hands to the back of the skull, and open and close your elbows. Inhaling, open, push the elbows down into the floor. Exhale to draw the elbows to one another, maybe even applying a little bit of pressure to your skull. And then bringing those elbows over the shoulders, making circles with those elbows. Changing direction with the circles. Then stopping with the circles. If it's comfortable to bring the elbows onto the floor to hold, do. See if you can get rid of the wrinkles in your wrists. So adjusting your elbows and your hands so that eventually those hands can be wrinkle free. If it's too much for your shoulders, just bring those elbows over the shoulders and release those arms beside you, palms facing up. As we breathe deeply into the shoulder blades, we think about pulling our belly towards our back, as if there was a big, huge bowling ball in our lower abdomen, and we're trying to pull the skin of our belly away from that bowling ball. Take 5 more breaths, just like that, right here. When those 5 breaths are complete, bring those elbows to one another, squeezing the head gently if that's appropriate for you. Tuck your chin a little bit towards your sternum to get that lengthening through the back of the neck. And again, 10 big breaths here. When those 10 breaths are complete, lift your chin, take your elbows over your shoulders, lift your head to bring your arms back over, arms beside you, halfway to a T. Return your feet to the wall and take some nice big breaths right into your belly. And then flipping your hands, I really like halfway to a T as a spacing because it really allows us to get the fronts of our shoulders, our shoulder heads, down to the floor. So push the shoulder heads, the elbows, the hands into the floor. Now see if it's comfortable for you to take your feet off the wall. If you feel that in your back, ditch the bolster, okay? If you still feel it in your back, just do one leg at a time. Maybe you can exhale to bring the knees towards the belly, let the low back imprint, but think about a neutral pelvis, and then take your feet back towards the wall. So exhale, bring those thighs towards your belly, trying to keep the ankles, the knees, and the hips in a straight line, and then inhale, take your feet and tap the wall. And you're just bringing those legs as close as is comfortable for you. Remember, shoulders and ribs are not moving. Low back can imprint, but we want to think about keeping a neutral pelvis. So we can go slow, we can go fast. The movement can be big or the movement could be small. Both are good. Now the next time we bring those legs in nice and close, we're going to keep those legs nice and close as we can, and we're going to take 10 big belly breaths. When those 10 breaths are complete, we're going to remove the bolster, place it beside us, and we're going to bring our feet onto the floor. Good. And pressing our feet into the floor, we're going to lift up the pelvis, and we're going to give that pelvis a little wiggle, like it's a hammock. Just wiggle it from side to side, loosen that up. That was a lot of pelvic work. And then bringing your pelvis up and down a few times, so pressing into your feet, lifting your pelvis, putting your feet back down onto the floor. Just a couple times, little movements. And then you may need to put your foot on the wall, but most of us will be able to probably do it with our feet on the floor. We're going to lift up our pelvis and we're going to slide that bolster underneath our pelvis. And then we're going to put the legs up the wall with the legs straight. If it feels like too much to have your pelvis on the bolster, you can put it on a blanket. Just let me know and I'll grab you a blanket. Does anybody need a blanket? Now dig your heels into the wall. Have your knees and your feet a hip distance apart and get your knees pointing straight over the crown of your head. Now your job is to keep the knees from moving. Legs are straight, heels are at the wall. Micro bend your knees a little bit. So I visualize that I've got a stick, like a broomstick, behind the backs of my knees, and it's pushing my knees forward so that my knees stay a little bit bent and they don't rotate off the stick as I draw circles with my ankles. Knees still pointing over the crown of the head. Good. Making changing direction with the circles. Say hello to ankle stability, hey? It's the season, you guys. We go from wearing boots to wearing sneakers. We go from sitting on our couch to climbing mountains and riding bikes. So we want to make sure our ankles are ready for that seasonal transition.
Would you rather have this one or that?
And then stopping with the circles, you're going to flex the feet, soles of the feet flat. You're going to curl your toes like you're holding onto a pencil. You're going to point the feet like a dancer, and you're going to flip your toes back to you. Flex, soles of the feet flat. Curl your toes like you're holding onto a pencil. Point your foot like a dancer. Flip your toes back to you. Let's do one more set. Flex, curl, point, and flip. So if you're someone that has knee stuff, aka you sometimes feel your knees, keep a Barbie foot. If you're someone with tighter hamstrings, flex your foot, but keep your big toe mounds, baby toe mounds level. Dig your left heel into the wall, take your right heel away from the wall, keeping both legs straight as you can. Now big belly breaths. As you inhale, the belly lifts and expands towards the sky, towards the sacrum, towards the pelvic floor, towards the hips, towards the diaphragm. As you exhale, the belly sinks, shrinks, contracts. Bend your knees if you need to. This should not pull into your back. The more you bend your knees, the gentler it is on your back. So with your next belly breath, I want you to expand your belly in all directions and hold it expanded unless that causes tension as you continue to breathe. And if you're new to belly breath, maybe just work on the belly breath, but if you can, blow up your belly in all directions like a paper mache balloon. Hold it expanded as you continue to breathe in and out through your nose. See if you can expand your nostrils like a bull, from the opening all the way into the skull. Keep that expanded belly breath for 5 more breaths. And the combination of the expanded belly breath and this basic core is the absolute bomb for getting rid of back pain. But if you can't do the expanded belly breath, you're still doing great work with the moving belly breath. What's important is that it's relaxing. It's not causing you physical or mental agitation. It will come, I promise, but you cannot force it. You force it, you're going to regret it. Right heel comes back to the wall. Good. Take a few breaths with both heels at the wall. Hello, hip flexors. Big belly breaths, mini micro bend in the knees. Good. Get that belly moving. Keep the belly moving so it expands and contracts, expands and contracts. Keep that going as you take your left heel away from the wall. And again, if it tugs into your back, bend your knees more. Right? No harm in that. And then once you get that belly breath moving with this little basic core, then expand your belly. Try and keep your belly expanded as you continue to breathe. When we first learn expanded belly breath, the breath will be shorter, right? But eventually it's going to be just as long as if we weren't doing the expanded belly. Five more breaths here. When those 5 breaths are complete, bring both heels to the wall. Beautiful. Find your breath. Bring your ankles together, your knees together. Use your pelvis to squeeze that bolster into the floor. Legs are straight, pretty straight. Take your right ankle over your left ankle. Keep your right foot very active as you slide that right ankle down towards the knee. And it doesn't have to come under the knee, but it can. And then listen to your body. Excuse me. Squish the bolster with your pelvis as you slide your left heel down the wall. And we're looking for a nice stretch. Not everybody right? We want the sweet sensation of the stretch. And I've got a couple little tricks. You can stay there, that's perfect. One trick is that the ankle comes outside the knee. So if you bring it, yeah, there you go, that's magic, nice. And then you want to bend this knee a little bit, nice. And then squish the bolster with the pelvis. And you want to keep your foot at the wall for a while and take your pubic bone towards the wall, take your knee towards the wall. And if we can, see these wrinkles? Yeah. And that just keeps the outer knee a little bit more comfortable. And just think about that right knee moving towards the wall as you squish the bolster. If it's too much, you can move yourself away from the wall. And if you don't feel the stretch, then that's a sign that you need to find more muscles versus more depth. So you want to fire up your feet, your ankles, your knees. Just give me 5 breaths here. And then arms beside you, pushing into the fingers and the palms, arms halfway to a T. Root those arms. Maybe you stay here with the foot at the wall if that's comfortable, or keeping those legs nice and active. Maybe you draw those legs towards you as you gently push your pelvis into that bolster. I'm not going to hold this for too long. Right? Either or works. And the legs are energetically trying to get away from you as they come to you. Let's go 5 breaths here in this deeper position. And this whole series can be done without the bolster. It's nice to have the bolster, and we have them, so why not? But if you're at home or on the beach, works with driftwood on the foot. And then taking that foot back to the wall, sliding the heel up the wall, sliding the right heel up the wall, uncrossing, ankles together, knees together, left leg comes over right. Slide that left ankle down below the knee if that's comfortable, ankle outside the knee, and then fire up both feet, move the left knee towards the wall as you slide your right heel down the wall. Just go to that 90-degree place. Think about moving that left knee towards the wall. Think about a neutral pelvis and think about squishing the bolster with the pelvis. 5 big belly breaths here. And again, finding the fingers, finding the palms, finding the arms. Maybe you stay here with your foot at the wall, or maybe you imagine both feet are pushing into walls, both heels are digging into walls, and you pull those legs in a little closer. The legs are really active, and then you think about bringing your tailbone towards that bolster, whatever posture you're doing, right? It doesn't have to necessarily move, but we're gonna find a deeper stretch, if we need a deeper stretch, if we think about bringing the tailbone towards the bolster. Listen to your body. We shouldn't feel it in our knee. We want to have no wrinkles in either ankle. We got those legs nice and warmed up to do this pose. And then right heel's gonna return back to the wall, slide up, left ankle comes up, unwinds, beautiful. Bend both knees, draw them in towards you. Have your elbows on the floor halfway to a T, right? Both shoulders are down, and we're gonna take the legs left and right. So I like to kind of have my hands on my legs. I'm not gonna let my shoulders lift. And I'm going to take my legs to one side, then back to center, then to the other side. So knees are together, feet are together, and I'm just rocking my pelvis on that bolster. Right? The shoulders don't lift. I just want everyone to hear that. Shoulders don't lift. Now I'm going to take my legs as far to the right as I can without my left shoulder lifting. And my hand can be on my other leg, right? I can move my hand lower if I can go deeper, but I want your hand pushing into your leg on some way. Elbow and shoulder are rooting, and then I want you to breathe into that left side. Good. Nice, nice, nice. So if we can, I want this hand here. Good. And then this elbow down. So left elbow on the floor, right hand on the leg, and you can go lower and move the hand on the leg if you want to go deeper, but the left shoulder, left elbow is going to push really hard into the floor. So I don't want to be able to slide my hand underneath that shoulder, right? And I want to have my hand and my elbow pushing into that leg, right? So to get the back release, my hand's going to push into my leg and my leg's going to push into my hand. Good. And so we want elbows on the floor on both sides. Good. Nice. And so I'm going to push down. Now I'm going to push with my hand and my legs are going to push. And then I'm going to see if I can slowly go deeper using my hand to push into my leg. But I have to root this shoulder, this elbow. So left elbow, left shoulder roots. I'm absolutely loving this twist right now. You get so much low back release, especially after all that pelvic work. So hand here. Bingo. Now you can push, right? Does that make sense? So the pushing into the open hand with the legs is how we get that release. And then pushing the opposite elbow, opposite shoulder down. Good. Now think about taking your butt to the wall, your feet to the wall, with the backs of the knees away from the wall. And just give me 5 big breaths into that left side. Now before we transition, keep breathing into that left side. If you have back stuff, you're going to move the top leg, then the bottom leg. If you don't have back stuff, you're going to bring both legs up together, and you're just going to rock from side to side again. Again, I like to kind of use my hands as resistance, almost like I'm throwing the legs like a ball from side to side. Just very gently. Nice. If you need to rest, anytime rest, take your feet to the wall or the floor. And the next time we bring the legs down to the left, have the left palm open to receive the legs. And again, you can go a little bit deeper if you want, but the right shoulder, right elbow stays on the floor. And the hand that's on the floor pushes into the legs, and the legs push back into the hand. Nice. Feet active, and then breathing into that right side. Both elbows on the floor, legs have something to root into, breath is full and deep. Let's just go 5 more breaths on this side. Imagine your feet were pushing into the wall, but then take your feet away from the wall. Imagine your butt was pushing into the wall, but then take the backs of the hamstrings away from the wall. As we finish up the breaths on this side, remember that if we have back stuff, we move the top leg, then the bottom leg, not both legs together. If our backs are feeling fabulous, we bring both knees up at the same time, and then we bring the feet down one at a time onto the floor. When you're ready, you're going to slowly lift up your pelvis and bring it back down onto the bolster 3 times. And if the wall seems too close, you can push your feet into the wall. And then just lift up your pelvis, remove the bolster, bring your pelvis down, let the pelvis sink into the floor for a few breaths. And then roll off to the side, push yourself up. excuse me. So we're gonna take our bolster, we're gonna sit in front of it, we're gonna have our hands on the bolster, and we're gonna lift ourselves up to sit on the bolster. One of the tricks to happy wrists is to use your fingers to squeeze the bolster as we come up. Soles of the feet are gonna clap, knees are gonna be apart, grab onto those knees, lift the chest. If it's hard to get a really straight back here, then we can put a couple of blocks underneath your bolster. Excuse me. Do you like Chandra's new haircut? Doesn't she look younger? All right. So from here, we're going to take the block into our hands, right? Just one block. If you can do fingertips, do fingertips. If you can't, do palms, right? So it's either fingertips or palms. Now, move those arm bones in and out of your shoulder sockets a little bit. And just notice when it's all the way out, it's gross, whether you're holding a block or riding your bike or driving your car. When it's all the way in, it's okay with the block, but you wouldn't want to lift something heavy, right? You wouldn't want to drive your car. So then take your arm bones just right out of the shoulders. And it might take you a little bit of time to figure that out. And then we're going to bend and straighten our elbows without our elbows moving in or out, right? So this is a neutral rotation of the arm. It really feels like an external rotation, but it's quite neutral. And because we do so much internal rotation, which is this, right? Computers, right? That kind of stuff, driving, right? It can get really kind of difficult to hold this rotation. And this rotation is great for releasing our back and our necks, right? It's also important for back bends. Let's bend our elbows, let's keep this rotation, and let's go up and down with those elbows, right? Holding onto that block. And again, you can go higher if the elbows are behaving and we're not changing the rotation of the arm bones inside the shoulder sockets. Good, inhaling up, exhaling down. Nice. And so as we come into more back bends this season, we want to try and learn this particular shoulder. This is our Urdhva, this is our Cobra, this is our Ekapata Kapotasana, our one-footed pigeons that we're going to work on tonight. And then we're going to bring our arms up, and we're just going to hold if we can. We can hold lower if that's more appropriate, but check me out. Elbows in. You should probably have your palms on the block because it's quite hard for you. Yeah, if it's hard, use your palms. But we don't want this, right? We want those elbows as wide as those shoulders. Looking at you over there. That part has to be nice and strong, right? This is not what I'm looking for. Looking straight at you. Elbows right over those shoulders, right? This is neutral rotation. This is internal rotation. My neck, not so good. My neck, so much better. Right? And then bring those elbows down. Beautiful. Release the block beside you. Palms up. Relax your shoulders. Close your eyes. Big, beautiful breaths. Lift up our knees, we're going to walk our feet nice and wide, we're going to dig our heels in. So I'm looking for a V here, and I'm looking for the center of my heel, right? So just like internal rotation is dominant in the shoulders in this room, external rotation is seriously dominating in the hips, right? So we want to try and keep the heel centered. So really noticing when the baby toe edge of the heel comes to the floor. You almost have to think of internal rotation to keep it level. If you're feeling your back, tuck a couple bolsters underneath your bolster to get yourself higher. Shoulders back, heart center lifts, beautiful. We're going to have our right hand on the inside of the knee as we twist a little bit to the left. So hand pushes into knee, knee pushes into hand. We bring our arm out like a zombie, okay? So a zombie is like straight out in front of you, right? An airplane is here, right? So let's go airplane, zombie, airplane, zombie, airplane, zombie. okay? We're then gonna bend our elbow without it going into an airplane, right? We can open and close it a couple times, but we want that elbow forward because that's a neutral rotation. We bring the hand to the back of the skull, we hit the head into the hand pulls, right? So now I'm not gonna go from zombie to airplane because that's not optimum for my shoulder, and I'm gonna twist here, right? Just twisting here. Nice. And if that feels appropriate, then the next time you come forward, you can come onto your elbow, keeping your spine straight. You could bring your elbow to the inside of your knee. You could even grab your foot, right? But I'm looking for a straight spine and I'm looking for rotation without opening my elbow. So the less you do, the more likely the rotation is going to happen at the spine and not just the habit of overusing your shoulders because your shoulders are sick of it, right? Everybody's shoulders are sick of it. Right? We want to use the spine. Our spine is not meant to be stiff. Our spine is meant to rotate and do all kinds of fun things so that our shoulders can be shoulders and our spines can be spines. Good. Now the next time we open up, we're just going to open up and hold and just breathe there. Right? Noticing if the elbow's coming out. Noticing if we've turned our necks, right? Can we keep that neutral neck? Like, do we have to turn our neck just because our spine's moving? Or can we allow our spine to move without moving our neck? Good. Nice. Excellent. Now see if you can keep the elbow in that rotation and straighten out the arm. This is magical. Looking at you through the back of my skull, Lisa. And you've been cheating. There you go. You know what I'm getting, hey?
Yeah.
Face hold up. Good. You've got a good view there. I'm happy. I'm going to bang this into her head. Good. Nice. And just breathe here. If it's too much, you go back to the bent elbow or you take your hand onto your knee. So this is my favorite shoulder in the lunges and the Ekapada Rajakapatasana wall series, right? And you just have to learn it. What it's not is an airplane. Sometimes we do an airplane, but this is the bomb because it allows you to get what? Rotation. Good. Bring that arm down, come up, shoulders back. There's a couple of little circles here. See if you can come forward a little bit, maybe a lot, maybe your hands come down. Let that spine curl to get a little break wherever you're at. Try to stay on the center of the heels. Noticing when we're going onto those outer heels and like a screwdriver, think internal rotation to keep the neutral rotation. Which shoulder is easier to breathe into? Which hip, which rib cage? Odds are it's the left, right? And just noticing these little subtle differences is just part of yoga. It's part of learning a discipline that creates mind, body, awareness, and connection. So we can basically fix ourselves before we break ourselves. And then when you're ready, up you come. Beautiful. See if you're still on the center of the heels. Left hand to the inside of the knee. Put your right hand to the outside of the knee. Push your hands into your knees into your hands to twist a little bit. Beautiful. And then bring that right arm forward and give me a little airplane. Give me a little zombie. Right? Nice. Watch those heels. Right? Want those solid feet. And then remembering that we don't want that opening of the shoulder. We want to keep that shoulder a little bit closed. We bend our elbow, we grab the back of the skull, we reach with that elbow, and we find the twist here without moving the neck, without moving the elbow, right? So we often kind of move like this, or we always shoulder check like this, instead of using our spine, right? That's called repetitive strain, because we always move one way and not another. And if we don't move with our spine, then our shoulders and our necks are going to be like, I'm off already. If it's easy, you could put your elbow on your knee, right? You want to be able to still rotate. You could take your elbow to the inside of the knee, right? You could grab your foot, but you're keeping your spine straight, you're keeping your shoulder solid, and the neck isn't really changing, right? The torso is moving the head, not the head moving. Nice. And then without changing the shoulder, we open up. We reach the elbow forward like a zombie, and we breathe into that side. And these side stretches are amazing, right? Not only for the spine, scoliosis, blah, 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 but it's really, really good for allergies. See how you can twist without opening the elbow. Nice. Head pushes into hand pushes into head. This up, this and that, but this is awesome. And then you can straighten your arm if you fancy, right? Without changing the shoulder, which can be a trick in itself. You just straighten out that arm. Keeping the zombie shoulder as opposed to this, right? It's that curling in. And just breathing into that wherever you're at. Reaching the wrist away from the hip. And then bringing that hand down, nice inhale to come back up, beautiful. Let's bring those feet together. Let's have those feet a little bit away from us, right? So we're creating more of like a square. Big inhale to lift and lengthen, you can come forward, right? If you wanted to, because you've had a stressful week, I don't know if anyone hasn't had a stressful week, right? You could add a little height so that you could rest your forehead on something. Resting the forehead is not only relaxing for the neck, but it's also calming to the nervous system. So again, optional, right? Something I really like to do if you're not pregnant is putting the elbow into the inner heel and finding the neck traction there, finding the nervous system reset there. But if you're pregnant, you don't want to put weight there because it's reproductive and it might contract your uterus. And if you feel your knees, you just come up and you bring your feet a little closer. It just means your hips need to open up a little bit before your knees are happy with that position. Let's go 10 more big breaths here. Let's see if we can plant a seated intention with each and every one of those 10 breaths. And fingers underneath the shoulders. Nice inhale to come up. Draw those knees together. Let's come onto our knees. Let's have our knees on the bolster. We're going to point our feet so our feet are down, and then we're going to lift our ankles up, which is an upward dog foot. And I'll do this in a couple different directions. Okay? You're going to come onto your knees from here. So we've been doing toes tucked in our camels, but we want to try and find an up dog foot for what's coming. Okay, so an up dog foot means our knees and our feet are a hips distance apart. Tops of the feet are down, ideally baby toe, edge of the foot is down, and you pull the toenails to you until you get rid of the creases in your Achilles, right? And you want to be even on your heels so that you're not lifting the baby toes and they're not sickling. I don't know if that makes sense. Crisp your knees a little bit closer to one another so that they're right underneath the hips. Do some backward circles with your shoulders just to set those shoulders back. Now imagine you've got a bowling ball in your belly. Pull your belly away from that bowling ball. Think flesh of butt down, middle of butt forward. Bring your elbows forward like you're holding onto a block. Maybe even the fingertips touch. Pull those elbows in and then start to take the shoulders back as you reach with those elbows. So it's as if there was hands on your pelvis, moving your hips forward, pulling your belly away and towards your back, lifting up those elbows. You just take it to wherever it's comfortable. You can bring the elbows back if that's comfortable. You can have your elbows at a shoulder's height, but keep the feet. I want us to really find those feet and elbows in at a shoulder's width. So getting the shoulder's width is 100% essential, right? Yeah, exactly. So that your elbows stay over your shoulders and you're pulling with the elbows and reaching with the elbows. Good. up you come, elbows coming down, keeping that exact shape of the arms. You sweep your hands back, hands on the pelvis, elbows pull in. Now push your belly into your hands. Your hands are gonna push forward and your belly is gonna push back. Keep pressing into those feet, pull those elbows in. So it's the exact same arms, right? See how my shoulders don't really change, right? Elbows in, pushing the pelvis forward, belly pushing back, and just hang out here. This is a great place to be, or you can start to take those elbows back, keeping a nice neutral neck, right? So the hips stay over the knees, nice, and you're just breathing here. Let those quads open. Let's go 5 more breaths. Go as deep as you want to go. Press into those feet from baby toe to big toe, and then nice and slow you come up. Let's bring our hands to the floor. Let's tuck those toes, right? Then you can straighten out your arms, straighten out your back. But try and keep your feet and your seat separate, so that your knees are right underneath your hips. Lift your belly and your ribs away from the floor. So this is a proper puppy. Push into your toes, push into your hands, good. Lift your belly and your ribs, lift your armpits. Now think of that same shoulder as you did in the back bend. Same shoulder we've been obsessing about. And we either stay here in our puppy or we lift our knees off the bolster and come into a down dog. But only if we have zero shoulder and neck stuff going on, right? If you've got neck and shoulder stuff, you keep training your puppy. That's essential. Good. The entire circumference of the palms roots, all your fingers root, and you breathe. And anytime you want to, your dog can go back to being a puppy. Excuse me. Let's go 10 more breaths here. When those 10 breaths are complete, drop down onto your knees, walk your hands towards your knees, lift your knees, walk your hands towards your feet to get your feet firm on the floor. Keep your knees very bent, bring your hands onto your knees, straighten out your arms. And just pause there for a moment, find your breath. So here, again, we want to be able to find that imprinting and arching of the low back, right? Some of us have this habit of imprinting and we get this kind of hunchy back here. Some of us have this anterior tilt habit where we're always in a big back bend. So move that pelvis and find a place where your back is somewhat straight. Push into your arms, push into your feet so that your arms are active, your shoulders are active, your legs are active. Release your hands, push down to come up. Beautiful. So we're going to take our chair to the front of our mat. If you want it to be more of a challenge, your chair can be off the mat. If you're wanting less of a challenge and you've never done lunges on a chair, then have your chair on the mat because that's way easier. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our hands on our hips, we're going to pick up our right leg, and we're going to internally and externally rotate the right leg like a screwdriver without our pelvis moving. See how our pelvis isn't moving? Good. And then we're going to open our pelvis, close our pelvis. You take your hip out, take your hip forward, right? So here I'm twisting my pelvis, and I'm getting the same thing of my foot moving, right? So I cannot move my pelvis, and I can move my foot and get an external rotation, or I can move my pelvis. Does that make sense? Hip back, hip forward, hip back, hip forward. Okay, so then do the other side, right? So we bring it up, and we're going to internally and externally rotate. So here I'm using my leg like a screwdriver, right? Then I'm not going to be a screwdriver. I'm going to open my hip, close my hip. Open my hip, close my hip. Both move my foot, correct? And some standing poses, I move my pelvis. Some standing poses, I screwdriver. In the standing poses we're doing, we're screwdrivering, okay? Does that make sense? So I can move my foot this way by moving my pelvis, right? Or I can screwdriver my foot and move it out to the side without moving my pelvis. All right, I have two options. I can open my pelvis like a book, or I can keep my pelvis, externally rotate, bring my foot down. Knees and feet are hips distance apart. I'm going to pull in my belly. I'm going to step my foot onto that chair, and I'm going to put my ankle right underneath my knee. This is every picnic table and every park bench, right? You can do this routine. It's the bomb. I do this at least once a week on a picnic table or a park bench. It's absolutely the best if you're athletic. Okay? Grab your own butt, sit your butt down into a chair. So that's going to really help you release the psoas, all right? Now your job is to learn how to stabilize your knee, which means your knee is not a joystick. It's not a joystick when you're running, walking, skiing, watching TV, and it's certainly not a joystick right now. So you want to learn how to teach it not to be a joystick. So the knee's not going to move. We're going to bring our hands onto the chair, and we're going to make sure we're not hunching our back. We've got a nice straight spine. So those of us that are really good at stabilizing our knee, keep your hands on your chair. Those of us that are learning how to stabilize our knee, put our hand on our knee. There you go, girl. And we're not going to let that knee move. So we jump once. Hold your knee. Our range is what we can do physically without going, right? Your range is when you push down, you can control the knee, push down and step back. That's your range. Most of us, this is our range. It's not very far. So when you're here, you just push down, step back. Where you can go without your knee moving forward or back is your range, okay? So Brett, try not to move that knee forward. Do you feel how it moves forward to jump back? See how it's moving forward to jump forward and back. You see what I'm looking for?
I know.
You just need more practice. It's all good, just as long as you're aware of it. Great, now we're going to go to that back heel and like a screwdriver. So I'm not going to move my pelvis. I'm going to externally rotate, and I'm going to see if I can drop the heel down. I'm going to lift up my arch, and I'm going to push into the entire foot, just like I learned to do at the wall, okay? So my whole foot is pushing down, my arch is lifting. If I can bring my hand down without changing my back or moving my knee, I do. But if I can't, I keep my hand up. I'm going to find a zombie with my right arm. A zombie. So it's straight out in front of my shoulder. I'm going to bend my elbow. I'm going to grab my head. My head is going to push into my hand, and I'm going to twist my spine, right? If it's too much, I go back to hand on knee. And then you twist the spine without moving the pelvis. A lot of our butts want to go out to the right? So move your booty to the left as you twist. Good. And then maybe you straighten your arm. But you keep that rotation in the shoulder. Little mini micro bend in that back knee. Push into the entire back foot. Opposite way, Steve. You've got the left leg up, we've got the right leg up. Doesn't matter, just as long as you do the other one next time. Again, if it's too much for the shoulder, you put your hand down. Now breathe into your back body. Big inhales, big exhales. Good. Bring that right hand back down to the chair. Pick up your heel, externally rotate a little bit more, but keep the pelvis level. Good. And then your hand can be in front of the knee, or it can be on the chair on the inside of the knee, but the knee hasn't moved at all. Leg pushes into arm, arm pushes into leg, right? We can also have our elbow here if we wanted to, but the knee stays stable. Let's zombie with the left arm. Good. Let's bend our elbow, grab the back of the skull, head pushes into hand, twist the spine, not the shoulder, right? So the shoulder doesn't change, and we twist the spine. Good, pressing into both feet. Hips don't move. Hips don't lie, right? Don't let those hips move. Cut that right butt. So you go to this outer trochanter, and we cut that to our groin. It's like there's an arrow pulling that to that, right? So the outer hip to the inner groin, and we lengthen our groin towards our knee. Good. And then release that arm down, pick up the back heel, pivot that back heel so that it's neutral. If you know that you don't have 100% control over your knee, put your hand on your knee. Don't let that knee move. Bend the other knee, the left knee. And if you know that you let that knee move, just do little tiny hops. If you know you can stabilize the knee, you step it forward, you stand up, you sit your butt into a chair, you put your hands on your pelvis. Pelvis pushes forward, belly pushes back, you lift your knee. Good, you find your breath here. Fire up both feet. So maybe the left hand grabs the knee, maybe it grabs the outer knee. Reach with your elbows as you come into a twist. Keep your gaze forward, keep twisting your torso without twisting your pelvis. Maybe you straighten your leg, maybe you grab your foot, maybe you extend your arms. If you turn your head, it's a quarter turn. You find your balance, and then it's another quarter turn. But the knee doesn't move, right? The knee is staying stable. Now this posture, it's more important to balance than to twist. We've just done a bunch of twists, right? So find your balance, whether it's here, right? Whether it's here, here. But if you're losing your balance, go back to where you can stand still on one foot and just work on lifting that foot, even if it's here. And release, Tadasana. Feet at hips distance apart, knees a little bit soft. Find your breath. Big, beautiful breaths. So if you couldn't control your knee, honestly, just do less, right? Step back less, do less arms. Our job is to teach the knee how to be a knee, right? Especially right now in this season. We want to teach our hips to be hips. We want our knees to be knees. Knees are hinges, hips are ball and sockets. If we keep letting our knee be wacky and weird, our hip will never open, right? And odds are our knees will hurt. Feet at hips distance apart. Pick up that left foot. Put the foot on the chair. Try and arrive with the knee right underneath the ankle so you're creating that habit. Good. Grab onto your chair. If you know your knee is like a joystick, put your hand on your knee, pull in your belly. Bend your right knee, pick up your right heel, step it back without the left knee moving. Just go to where you can. Good. Then screwdriver that right leg. So you pick up the right heel, you screwdriver the right leg, you drop the heel. Now push into your whole foot, bend your knee a little bit. And your hand can come down if it did on the other side, but if it didn't, it didn't. Get a little bit of a twist here. Maybe your arm comes to a zombie, or maybe it stays on your knee, reminding your knee to stay still. Maybe you take your head, lean your head, reach with your elbow, and twist with your spine. Maybe you straighten without losing the shoulder. Beautiful breath. So you know your business, right? You want to keep that knee right over that ankle. Beautiful. Just breathe into it. Everybody's looking really good. So this is an internal rotation, and we did an external rotation. Beautiful. Here we go. And this is perfection. And the more you keep supporting that knee, the more it's going to support you in life, right? We don't support our joints. They don't support us. Hey, Brent, you're like this, and I want that elbow forward. So there you go. You feel that difference in the shoulder. And then you can twist in the spine, right? There you go. There, see, it's a very different thing. Nice. And then when you're ready, you untwist. Hand either comes back onto the chair, holding the knees an option too, whatever you like. You pick up that back heel and you rotate a little bit more, but you try and keep that pelvis pretty level. The hand can come to the inside of the chair or the knee if that's feeling better, or the inside. But you push the knee into the arm into the knee, pull in your belly. Don't let that booty go to the left. Keep your spine straight. Cut that outer hip to the groin, lengthen the groin to the knee. Find your zombie. Grab the back of your skull. Don't open the door of that shoulder. It just jams it. We want to free the shoulder. Hand pushes into head pushes into hand, reach with the elbow, and then the torso twist, not the shoulder. Right? So we're shoulder checking using the spine, not using the neck. And the shoulder will be released if we're not jamming it. Good. And then maybe you straighten the arm, maybe you don't. So you want to take this and move it off my finger to the groin. Bingo. Push into the baby toe edge of your back foot and imagine there's a little balloon in your arch and lift your arch up. Excellent. And we're just gonna learn this routine. By the time summer hits, we're gonna have this whole thing down. And anytime you see a park bench or a picnic table, you're gonna think of me. And you might even do 5 minutes of yoga. But you don't have to. Gaze comes down, hand comes down, hand on knee if you fancy. Pick up the back heel, pivot so that the knee points straight ahead. Pull in your belly, step it forward. Find your balance, good. Hands on the pelvis, belly to the pelvis, pelvis to the belly. So this is a sandwich and it's squishing. Rib cage back, lift your foot. So we've just done a lot of twisting, we've just done a lot of straightening of the legs. So balance is crucial for a happy life, right? So if balance is tricky, you stay here and you don't worry about the twist, you worry about getting better at balance, start by bending your right knee. Those of us that can balance here, no problem, the hand can come to the knee, it can come to the crease to the outer knee, and then we lift our elbows, pull our elbows apart. We think about leaning into the back ribs to take the ribs off the kidneys to twist. Try and keep your gaze pretty focused and neutral to start with, fixing your gaze on one point. Maybe you straighten your leg. Maybe you grab your foot and straighten your leg. Maybe you reach your arm back. And then before you turn the head, you really find the release through the torso. And then you move your drishti. Your drishti is your gaze. From one point, you do a quarter turn to another point. You wait. You checkity check, check, check your checklist. And then once you've done a quarter turn, if you want to do another quarter turn, you do. Or you don't. Either works. Belly towards back, back towards belly. Five more breaths. And when that's complete, release. Let's go 5 more breaths here. Was anybody not here last week? You weren't here last Wednesday, and you were not here last Wednesday. Okay. All right, so we're going to put our chair now at the wall. This is my imaginary wall. And we're going to put our bolster one kind of roll away-ish, right? Like say a little bit away from the chair. So, and then the blocks. So you want to have at least this distance between your chair and the bolster. And your chair's at the wall. So your knees are underneath your hips, your ankles are on the bolsters. Hands are on the bolsters. Now with your ankles on those bolsters, I want you to push the tops of the feet into the bolsters like you're trying to pull the bolsters to you. And just feel that connection. So my knees are underneath my hips, my thighs are at a 90. My back is nice and solid. And I want to push the tops of the feet into the bolster just like an up dog would. Pull in your belly, and then you're going to take your right knee and you're going to place it on the bolster. You're going to put your right foot and you're going to push it into the top of the chair. And you're going to walk those blocks back to you. So the top of the foot pushes into the chair. The knee is on the bolster, but because the foot is pushing hard, right, you don't really feel the knee. You should never feel that right knee. And then I'm going to push into my hands to lift my left foot and bring it forward into a lunge. Good. Or I stay here, right? I can also bring those blocks in really close to step it forward. And then I walk my foot and my hips into the room, right? So I'm trying to eventually get my hips in line with my knee and my knee, right? So as opposed to like this or way down here, I want to have like basically a diagonal from my hip to my knee. Right? So some of us have to lift up, some of us have to push forward. See if you can take your foot off the chair. That's the hamstring engaging, which is good. Nice. Use your fingers, use your palms. Bring your foot back onto the chair. So remember, the knee is not allowed to move. If you want to go lower, you go lower, right? Hand on the knee, find a little bit of a twist. Look familiar? If this is enough, it's enough, right? And you have whatever height you need, right? So left hand's on left knee. We're on whatever height we need, right? Then left arm does a zombie. Good. Other hand. There you go. Without the knee moving, the hand comes to the back of the skull, head pushes into hand pushes into head, and then you twist the spine, not the shoulder. There we go, people. And then we extend the arm if that's available. And there's no movement in the neck apart from the spine, and people do not get that. But we're getting it today. Other way, Brent. So right hand on the floor. Yeah. Left hand, and then just twist here, and that's good. That is good. Just know that that stretch is enough. You don't have to do the arm.
Oh, it's going the wrong way, okay.
Yeah, it's all good. But just keep your hand on your knee for today. Does anybody feel their right knee? Who does? Push in your foot and lift your knee. Bring both hands down. So you're three-legged table, right? Find a four-legged table. See how you don't feel your knee? Push into your hands, push into your foot. Lift your knee off the bolster energetically. Do you feel your knee? A little bit. Go higher, bring your hands closer. We don't want to feel that knee. I want you to be able to really push into that foot so that you don't feel that right knee.
If it's not a belt down,
Good. Yeah. So it's the quads. We know your quads are tight and that's why you're feeling your knee. So then you take the stretch out of the quads until you don't feel the knee. Then you see if you can become a three-legged table. Then you see if you can become a two-legged table. Then you see if you can become a whatever table, right? But if you feel the knee, you do less. Yeah. And if you don't twist this way, but you find that shoulder, it can be better. Good. Hand comes down. Let's go the opposite way. Everybody's right knee is still good. So we can take the block to the inside of the knee, right? We can take the hand to the inside of the knee. We can take the hand to the pelvis. But this knee doesn't move. We could even have our elbow on this knee, but the left knee doesn't move, and we twist this way without the pelvis moving. Right? You get off the bus where you need to. Right now, this is a two-legged table. A three-legged table, a four-legged table, I'm not going to feel my knee. Does that make sense? If you don't have the balance to be a two-legged table, you go back to being a three-legged table. If you feel your knee, you put more things on the ground. Then you bring your arm forward like a zombie, you grab your head, head pushes into hand pushes into head, and the torso twists, not the shoulder. There, we're getting that. The neck doesn't change. And then we extend the arm. And you can start to think of energetically internal, external rotation of that left hip. You could think of elbow pushing into leg, leg pushing into elbow, but knee stays the same. Do you feel that right knee? No? Good. Yeah, and so not balance. And you're doing less, which I love. You learn to support your body will support you. You ignore your body when it says, hey, you're pissing me off, it's going to ignore you and it won't do the shit you want it to do, right? That's just the facts of life. We can't push through pain and expect our body to be different, right? And then bringing that arm down, beautiful, nice. So then we take the left ankle back onto the bolster, left knee on the floor, we take the right knee down. And here I could do a child's pose, a puppy pose, a down dog pose, a box pose, right? But I make sure I'm doing what my body appreciates and is appropriate for my body. And we breathe. And so you learn to stretch your quads.
I think I overstretched it the other day, and since then I feel it.
Your quad, you overstretched it?
I think that somewhere, not my quad, but that somewhere here.
Yeah, when you told me when you were running or something like that.
And like, yeah, I've been running a lot.
Yeah. But that makes sense, right? And it's just saying, when you feel it, it's just saying, do a little less and let me release. And then when you're ready, let's do the other side. So hands on the blocks, ankles on the bolster. Hands are quite wide, a little wider than our shoulders. Our feet push into the bolster and hug it, right? So that you're holding whole ankle is pushing to the bolster. Lift your belly, lift your ribs. Good. And you can bring the blocks back closer to you to take your left knee onto the bolster, your left foot onto the chair, and you have to push that left foot into the chair, otherwise it's too much weight on your knee. This is an incredibly important leg of your chair, right? If this is like a dead ankle, it's just not going to work, okay? And then you push into your blocks to step that foot forward, and you walk that knee forward. And again, depending on the flexibility of your body, you walk your hips and your foot into the room. We want our knee right over our ankle. And we go as low as we did on the other side, but if our palms aren't flat, we're missing out on a lot of neck release, right? If we feel our wrists, we use our fingers more. We go higher, right? Right hand comes onto the knee, pelvis doesn't twist, we twist, right? Just a little bit, nice. We find a zombie arm, so we're twisting towards the knee. We bend the zombie arm, we grab our head pushes into hand pushes into head, neck is neutral, and we twist our spine. Good. We breathe. Does anybody feel the left knee? We're all good? And it's not wrong to feel it, it's wrong to not say that you feel it and to not change and sit through the pain. Wrong and right, whatever, you do you, but if we want to heal and we want to do yoga, it's not a pain practice here, right? Some places they'll be like, breathe through the pain, and that's cool too. That's the way they get to a still mind. I have enough pain in life, I do not need pain in yoga, so I came to it from a different angle, where I want to use it to heal my muscles and my bones so that I can control my mind on happy thoughts, because it's hard to be happy when you're in pain. And then bringing your elbow down, beautiful, find your position, palms on whatever height you need, and it could be elbow on knee, right? So again, here we're not really twisting the pelvis. If the arm comes to the inside of the knee, great. If not, no worries, but the knee doesn't move. And the pelvis doesn't move. We learn to stabilize that pelvis, and we'll really open our head. Okay, but we can still have here, doesn't really matter. And then we get a twist the opposite way, but the knee stays stable. And then once we find our twist, right, if we want more, we can bring it into a zombie. We can bend our elbow, grab our head pushes into hands, and we twist the torso as opposed to the shoulder and the neck. So I'm not opening my shoulder, I'm opening my spine and my head. And then we breathe into it. And there's no right and there's no wrong, right? It's just we can get better at it or we can stay the same. Each step is preparation for the next. Just a few more breaths here. And then when that's done, hands down, get on those high bolsters, walking that right foot back, bring the blocks in to support you, right ankle on the bolster, right knee down, left ankle forward, right? You're going to want to open up your knees, so either in a tabletop position, open up your knees, in a down dog position, open up your knees, and you could do your handstand again on the chair. But open those knees. And when that feels complete for you, we're going to come onto our backs. You can either roll over through a squat, or you can take your feet out to one side, your hands out to the other side to sweep through. Take your bolster so it's kind of underneath your thighs. Nice. Come down onto your back. We're going to give those legs a nice little hug. Breathing. If you feel like you still need to open up your legs, you can open up one leg at a time, or both legs, and then give your legs a hug. That was a lot of twisting, so doing the wind remover digestive version where we're not rocking as much and where we get the belly as close to the thighs as we can would be optimum after that routine. If you're doing something that requires symmetry, make sure you're swapping it up equal amounts of time. And then eventually letting those legs come into Shavasana, a bolster underneath the thighs. If you need a little pillow under your head and you don't have one, raise your hand and I'll grab you a little pillow. Can I have a couple of that? Of course you can. Anybody else want a pillow? I'm up. And then focus on your body from the inside. Focus on that gentle movement of the breath within your still body. No longer trying to control the breath in any way, but simply observe it.
For $7. Oh my gosh, she said something for $1. Is Ryan gonna bake down the water?
Wait, 21 for a day.
And then slowly, gently, start to wake up your body from the inside by deepening your breath.
This train is completely.
Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. With a nice big inhale, stretch your arms up towards the sky. And exhale to let your arms fall down heavy. Start to bend your knees, walk your feet towards your seat. Maybe with an exhalation, you roll off to the right. Nice inhale, arm strength. Push yourself up. Find yourself in a nice, comfy, seated position, something that feels good for your knees and your back. Feel free to sit on a bolster. Bring our hands into Namaskara, and we'll end with a nice big group home before we dedicate the mirroring of our practice. Maybe use this class to be mindful that first we start by doing what we can. Next thing you know, we're doing what we never thought we could. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your practice. Namaste, everybody. Nice work. That was a nice little build from last week. Peace and love, everybody in Zoom land.